What's going on, folks of barbecue interwebs? It's Pete with Backdraft Barbecue, and today we're going to show you how to tailgate with the Big Green Egg. Stick around. What's going on, folks? So we're going to just go over some basic tailgating etiquette and 101 with the Big Green Egg. Take it or leave it. Some of this stuff just might seem like no-brainer to you, right? But a lot of this common sense stuff is overlooked by people and it causes a ton of trouble. So I just want to help you. Now listen, by the way of background, you guys know I'm a firefighter and everything, but my actual specialty was fire investigation. So you might think that's kind of funny. Let me show you something, Fire Marshal Bill. But I do want safety to be part of this as well, because tailgating is somewhat dangerous when you're dealing with an automobile and you know, open flame. All right, let's get started. First things first, when it comes to tailgating, Big Green Egg. Now I am using a mini right now, and you might be like, kind of like, spoiler alert, I thought he was going to show us how to use the big full-size ones. I could do that as well, but it's a lot more setup, and the smaller the egg, the easier it is to transport, obviously. So I'm using a mini today for this demonstration, but when we get into the larger sizes, the same principles apply. It just takes a little bit longer and you need more help setting it up. First things first, these are made of ceramic. There's a lot of pieces in here that will break. So when you put something that's ceramic in the back of a pickup truck, understand when you hit bumps, you could have breakage. So what are some things you can do to ensure that your egg is not going to break going down the road? One of the things I like to do is I make sure that I bungee cord my egg not only to the side of the truck, but also closed, because we don't want that lid bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down. So we fix this closed, and then we affix it to the side of the truck. Now we don't want this to be riding on the edge of the metal bed, because again, that could be a point of impact. So I usually take an old jacket and maybe even my bag of lump, and I use that as an insulator between the egg and the truck. So therefore it's get a little shock that way. This is being held down by rubber bungee cords, which have a little bit of give to them as well. So all those things there, that's a big step you can take to prevent the egg from breaking. Here's the next thing I do, and this is really important. When you have your egg and you're going to transport it, the mini is not that big of a deal because it's smaller, but as soon as you get outside of the mini and the Mini Max, you have to take some steps to insulate the actual internal parts, because it would be nothing for this thing to break, right? I mean, it's ceramic. So get some old cardboard, okay? And if you look down here, you can take a piece of cardboard, cut to fit, stick it down in here, and then put your fire ring back in. That piece of cardboard is going to serve as an insulator again. And of course you can take it out, set it to the side, and reuse it. Here's another trick that I do as well. I always put charcoal inside the egg prior to transport. Why? Because that charcoal is going to act again as a little bit of a shock absorber, keeping that metal grate from bouncing around, keeping things from flying around inside. And I'm going to take my cover off and I'm going to bury that right in the charcoal. And that way, this isn't going to bounce around and break into something. You could also set it to the side if you wanted to, but I found that's a convenient way to do it. On the very top, putting the grate back in, again, a little bit of cardboard on top, just to keep this from bouncing around and fracturing something. So that's the first thing. That's like my pre-game insurance policy. I make sure I take the time to just pack the egg up carefully and make sure it arrives safely. Whatever you do, do not put your plate setter inside the egg and drive down the road with it, because these legs break off super duper easy. They will snap right off, and you will just be crying and sad and lonely, because no one will want to be around you because you won't be able to cook for them. So with that being said, we've got this ready to go. Let's talk about fire safety. Little PSA here for fire safety. This gets really hot. Okay, if you can touch it with your hand and you're not burning your hand, okay, you can hold your hand there for a second or two and you're not burning your hand, understand that's probably not going to start a fire. I want to just give a little disclaimer on liability here. You choose to use an egg on the back of your truck, you are taking a chance. There's just no way around it, okay? But hedge yourself against having a car fire by making sure that the outside of the egg, you're not cooking at high enough temperatures that when you touch it, you're actually burning your skin. So if you're burning yourself, the temperature is most likely over 130 degrees. Just to put that in perspective, paper catches on fire at about 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's quite a difference between paper burning and your skin being burned. So I use the skin test because if I can touch it and it's just warm to the touch, there's no way it's going to be close to the ignition temperature of my car. That being said, with the minis, they have these nests that they come with, and they have legs. The trick to keeping something from catching on fire is airflow, okay? So see how there's an air gap here? There's probably an 1.5 inch air gap all around the bottom of this egg. That is going to keep air moving, and it's going to keep the surface of my truck cool, and it's going to allow cooling of the bottom of the egg, because that bottom of the egg does get a little toasty. So air gap is important. If you're using a larger size, go down to your local home improvement warehouse and buy a couple bricks. And then literally you're going to just elevate this up more, an inch or two, and that air gap is going to keep the surface cool as well. So that's my trick to that. With the larger ones, if you don't have a nest, like if you're actually using a large one, a standard patio paver works pretty good, but be aware that heat will transfer through that, and it could cause your tailgate to catch on fire, which is never a good situation. Some of the new pickup trucks come with composite beds, they're plastic. So you really want to think about that as well, because obviously plastic has a very low ignition and melting temperature versus steel, okay? So if you're like a Toyota Tacoma, and some of the GM products now use composite tailgates, you just really want to look out for that. And I definitely would have some sort of insulation in between. Now, let's light this baby and get the show on the road. I am using a propane torch like I do on a lot of mine. I think this is just so much easier than having a fire starter. I also don't go hog wild with my charcoal load when I'm tailgating, because I want to be able to turn this off later, let it cool down quick enough so that I can continue. It's so cold the torch doesn't even want to light. So here's another thing, just as far as safety goes when you're tailgating, make sure that your fire screen is secure so no embers come out, and also keep the lid closed so that nothing is going to spark out and land in your truck like it does sometimes. You just got to use a little bit of extra care and common sense when you're cooking on the back of your truck. Now, I mentioned charcoal loading. How much charcoal do you put in your egg? Remember, typically with tailgating, you're not doing this super extended long cook. And if you get this thing up to like 900 degrees, the entire egg is going to be really, really hot. It's going to take a long time to cool down. One of the things Big Green Egg is really big about is making sure your egg is cool before you transport it. Because if you put this in the back of your truck and it still has glowing embers of coal in there, what could happen? Well, very bad things. So the object is to get your fire up to the temperature you want with the least amount of charcoal, and then when you're done with this, you're going to cap it and allow it to completely cool off. Never, ever, ever, ever put water in the egg to cool it down. That is a recipe for disaster. You will fracture this ceramic with no trouble at all. Let's get this thing up to temp and let's cook some baggers. Yes, you Hot supper. Moxie makes Mainers mighty. Yeah. With tailgating, strategery is important. So if you're able to pre-form your burger patties, it saves you a step of tailgate preparation, which can be kind of messy. The same thing goes for other things, like marinate your steaks prior, throw them in the cooler, and let them sit. Also think about reusing different packaging. So for instance, if you bring veggies cut up in a container, can that container be used as a to-go later on for the leftovers? Just trying to think ahead, because again, tailgating, sometimes you don't have all of the luxuries you do at your home kitchen. Here's another tip when you're tailgating. If you do have a camper top or a cap, as some call it, with glass, make sure you leave the glass down, because when it's up, it just will fill your cab with smoke. If it's down, it creates more of a natural draft, and you can see the smoke rises up. Sometimes it can be hard to find a level spot. Level spots are obviously the best for tailgating, but we're on the side of a ski mountain, so that really doesn't happen very often. One of the things you can do, instead of trying to level the entire thing, is just placing something underneath the legs of the Big Green Egg to level it, instead of having to worry about the entire truck. It is a pain when you're trying to cook stuff too and you're not level. So you can also do the ring approach, where you place all of your items around the outside edges. Because of the way that the Big Green Egg cooks, it's easy to get evenly distributed heat all the way around it. First course is done. This is just a little easy tailgate recipe you can do. What you do is you buy like the Chinese sausage links. You can buy them at most grocery stores. Dust them with some Code 3. I like to use the backdraft rub. And then once they're just about done, slice them up into small pieces, and then you can skewer them, and man, they're delicious. Or as we like to say, wicked good, Bob. Wicked good, Bob, yes, sir. Okay, here's another little hack when you're tailgating. If you're tailgating and there's any woods around, just take a quick sapling and make your own skewer stick. Works in a pinch and it's great. Round 2, burgers are going on. Sausages are done. So you're done tailgating. It's time to go home. Hopefully your team won. We have a little bit of charcoal left over. Come take a look at this. So what do? The easiest thing to do is just scoop out the charcoal and put it on the ground in a fire-safe fashion. However, if you timed it right, you shouldn't have too much charcoal left. If you have the time to let this cool down before you transport it, that's the best decision. But if not, you can always remove the charcoal from the egg, dispose of it in an area that's not going to set the world on fire, and allow your egg to cool down open. It doesn't take too long. The minis only take about 20 minutes, and then they're good enough to go. But it is very important you never transport an egg when it's hot and has coals in it, because it can cause a real problem. So I hope my tailgating tips helped you out. I hope your tailgate next time goes great for you. As always, please stay safe out there. And if you like this video, chuck a comment down below and don't forget to subscribe.